Good afternoon. My name is Michael Dimant, and I'm presenting today my final capstone project, a natural language processing effort focused on changes in word associations over time within the Arabic news media. Just to describe the agenda, we're going to open with why I chose this particular subject, run through my data sources, my pipeline, analysis, and interpretation, and conclude with future directions. So, why do we care about a word and its nearest neighbors between two different points in time within a corpus of texts? The answer, from my point of view, is that the news media can offer a window into how a part of society understands a topic. This is very closely related to the concept of a discourse or how a group or institution talks about a certain subject. The problem is that the volume of articles is massive and too much for any one person to read and comprehend themselves in a meaningful way. And so the solution really comes from natural language processing, which can offer insight into the major level trends while still incorporating every small piece of data. So you get the macro and the micro at the same time. In terms of sources for this project, I relied on the Arabic news corpus arranged by an Egyptian researcher, Dr. Ibrahim Abu al-Khair. This corpus of texts covers 8 different countries, about 1.5 billion words, of which 3 million are unique. And I went with the Yemen subset of this corpus because it was the smallest, easiest to clean up, and therefore the best for demonstrating a proof of concept. We'll dive into a little bit more detail on this slide here. So, in terms of some summary statistics, there were about 92,000 articles, 283,000 distinct words, and on the right, you can see a histogram showing the length of the article in words. It's largely normal for a good part of the graph, but you can see the tail, there's a bit of a bump in articles between 6 and 700 words, with the red dashed line showing the mean article length of about 171 words per article. Also to note, Sabah News, the source for all of these articles, is a state-run media outlet, so not an independent media agency. This is a high-level view of the pipeline for this project. I started with a raw XML file from Ibrahim Abu Khair's website. I had to do a fair amount of manual cleanup, including some regex operations to remove offending characters. Once I completed this, I was able to pull the data into a pandas data frame, applied multiple cleaning functions, segmented the data by year, modeled each year using Word2Vec embeddings, and then used a dimensionality reduction technique to take high dimensional vectors and turn them into objects that were humanly interpretable. So something that has 2 dimensions can be plotted and visualized far more easily than something with 100 dimensions. This is really the key to the analysis. I wrote a function in my Python script that was able to take a user word, in this case the Arabic word muqawama, meaning resistance, along with 2 years that were represented in the data, 2009 and 2014. And what this function returned are two plots, one from 2009 showing the 10 nearest neighbors for the given word, resistance, and the same plot showing the 10 nearest neighbors for the 2014 set of data. Without Arabic, it might be hard to see, but you can, if you know, you can see that all of these words are different. So just superficially, you can see that the associations of this word are different between these two given times. We'll go into a little bit more detail as to what this may mean. So to start out with, the word resistance or muqawama sometimes has a positive connotation in modern Arabic political discourse. When we zoom in on this particular context, we see that in 2009, the words most associated with mukawama were fairly neutral compared to 2014, where the words tended to be sharper and have more violent connotations. Multiple conclusions are possible. It's possible that the political situation in Yemen being different in 2014 and more tumultuous, a state run media outlet had an interest in covering resistance in a more negative way, partially to preserve its own interest. Or it's possible that there was just simply more coverage of violent resistant events in 2014. In particular, it looks like there may be a cluster of articles describing Israeli Palestinian conflict events, which often use the word resistance. So it's not a foregone conclusion that changes in word association automatically translate to a change in society. However, this type of analysis does point the way for analysts and scholars of the region to refine the types of questions they're asking and offer some way to provide evidence for or against certain potential trends. In terms of future directions, there are a number of things I can do to enrich this analysis. One is to add additional countries. Another is to look within the same country and examine different media outlets. And the last thing would be to source data from a wider range of time. Most of the data in the corpus is from 2000 to 2014. However, if it was possible to scrape data from the 80s or 90s or early 2000s for some of the countries, this could offer a wider view of data for trends. Thank you very much for watching this presentation.